Today is none other than N7 Day, so of course we have a bunch of new information surfacing about Mass Effect Andromeda. At the time of recording, this is all the information that is available, but of course there probably will be some more popping up later on in the day. But for now, let's kick things off, shall we? So, let's start things off with one of the smaller pieces of news, shall we, as we will be seeing the very first gameplay for Mass Effect Andromeda at the Game Awards 2016, which takes place on December the 1st. So, just a few weeks to wait, and then we'll finally get a look at what we can actually expect for the game, because of course all we've seen up till now is just, cinematic trailers, and there is a new one as well, which I will link in the description below. I don't want to risk showing it in the video because I don't know how trigger happy they're going to be on the content ID, but regardless it will be linked in the description below. And speaking of that new trailer, it didn't really show much that we hadn't seen before. Alien worlds, space worm, and a bit of a clearer look at your Solarian crew member, but we have the biggest reveal is the Andromeda's new baddie race from previous leaks that would be named the Ket, either spelled K-H-E-T or K-E-T-T. Of course, we already know that the main character is going to be Ryder, and you can be either Sarah or Scott Ryder, and your father, who has appeared in an earlier trailer, is Alec Ryder, who is indeed voiced by Clancy Brown, as many fans have indeed speculated. With all that out of the way, let's move on to the two meatier pieces of information, the first of which is that we now know when Mass Effect Andromeda is actually set, as the brand new Andromeda Initiative website has laid out the setting for the game and how it will sort of deal with the issue of the ending of Mass Effect 3. And your character will be leaving the Milky Way galaxy on their journey to Andromeda in 2185, and it's a 600-year journey. You may recall that the following year is of course 2186, which is when the Arrival DLC is set, and that's when the Reapers actually invade the Milky Way and when Mass Effect 3 begins. So by the time this actually takes place, your ship is already on its way to Andromeda and the crew is in cryosleep, so the crew will completely miss the Reaper War and of course completely miss how you chose to conclude it in your previous saves. So the main sort of meat of the action of Andromeda will be somewhere in 2785. So, that's pretty interesting. I mean, we all knew that it was obviously going to be a separate story, but there was still the question of how they were going to deal with that question of the Mass Effect 3 ending, and the answer is to avoid it completely. And last but not least, the loyalty missions will be returning from Mass Effect 2 into Mass Effect Andromeda. As you may recall, each of your companions had a narrative-focused quest, and they allowed you to get more information about their backstory, motivations, and again, they will be coming back for Mass Effect Andromeda. However, these will not actually be a critical mission for you on any of them. These are going to be completely optional. They are one of the side quests that you can choose to pursue. If you complete them, you obviously get more complete knowledge of your squad mates and all that, but there's no penalty if you choose not to take part in them for whatever reason. I have a few comments here from the creative director Mac Walters, and he said, quote, "I loved the loyalty missions. As a writer, one of the things I loved was the freedom to say, I know this character is coming along, so they can carry a lot of the narrative. That made my job easier, but it also made it more fun, because I could tell a more specific story in one of those missions." The big difference between this and Mass Effect 2, where you did a loyalty mission and that all impacted the ending, is that they're much more optional in this case. If you don't want to engage with them, you don't have to. If you want to engage with them after the critical path is done, you can do that. Now, of course, these aren't the only side missions available. There's going to be various exploration activities, as well as the mystery surrounding the Ryder family itself. And of course, there's also going to be a bunch of other things as well. But this is a pretty welcome addition to the game, as of course, this added quite the interesting sub-story to Mass Effect 2. It's interesting that they're optional though. I guess so that people can have more freedom with the ending. I don't know. I mean, obviously it depends on what they're doing with the ending. I mean, maybe we won't have multiple endings this time. Either way, they won't be impacting the ending, so perhaps it's just going to make the choices more meaningful and doesn't make you actually play through this quest when you might not want to, just to get a better ending. I guess it kind of works out. Either way, they'll be there for you to enjoy. So I'd love to hear some thoughts from you guys on everything I've discussed here. As always, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.